Shalom, all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushua, Ba'ashem Harakah Kadash. Double honors to other apostles, the great millstone of all and shalom to all the brothers doing the work of sharing truth. Got this on the Wall Street Journal, basically talking about, the lines being drawn, and, you have from World War II, what was it, Axis and Allies. That's the dichotomy that was set up. You had the West mainly, UK, France, America, I don't even remember all the fucking countries. But the bulk of the Western allies, and then you had the Axis. Oh no, the Russians were on the Allied side. And then the Axis was like Germany, Italy, Japan, a few other places as well. I can't remember. I actually ain't gone over the exact nations on either side in a little while. But that's kind of, the lingo that's used. So you got the title, How a New Enemy Axis Called Crink is Working... fucking Crink is working against America. So it says, an axis uniting China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea, dubbed Crink by some Western officials, has emerged from the Ukraine war. A loose alliance united by mutual disdain for the US-led world order. And that's been, for a minute. Because, you know what, they'll go into it, actually. Says that coalition's cooperation has steadily deepened as a form of exchange food, oil, arms, diplomatic support, and military assistance in a manner designed to remain beyond the reach of Western sanctions. And that's, you have the BRICS ties into it as well, because the bulk of what they're developing with that is essentially to be outside of Western influence. That's the whole point of it. So it says, now President Trump's determination to end the war creates a moment of truth for the Entente. If he brokers a ceasefire, the bonds between the four could loosen, but a failure to do so, along with greater US pressure on Iran and China, could unintentionally deepen this common market of autocracies, says John Park, a non-resident senior fellow of the Atlantic Council, who focuses on Indo-Pacific security and economic statecraft. Cooperation between the four nations isn't new. Russia and Iran allied to support the Assad regime in Syria, while China has long been North Korea's main patron, and Beijing and Moscow's relationship has been deepening for years. But the war multiplied those ties and helped knit the quartet together, yeah. Let's see if they'll say it. Okay, yeah, they go into it. Okay. So, says the four are promoting alternative systems to compete with the United States, primarily in trade, finance, and security, according to a recent assessment by U.S. spy agencies. Russia's need to fuel its war effort has put Moscow at the center of the Entente. Probably Entente. Is turned to China's firms for goods critical for making the arms it needs in Ukraine. North Korea itself, long under international sanctions, has sent huge quantities of munitions, as well as more than 12,000 soldiers to help Russia. Ukraine said last month the half of Russia's ammunition now comes from North Korea. That support has helped Russia largely expel Ukrainian troops from its Kursk region. Lately, Pyongyang has engaged diplomatically with Moscow more than it has with Beijing. Yeah, because that was like a big thing. It's probably the biggest thing for North Korea is them sending troops to the front line of Ukraine, where that's really showing, these guys are gonna link arm in arm for these military conquests, because it'll go into it as well. It says Iran has provided Russia with drone expertise, giving it a critical boost in a conflict dominated by the use of UAVs. Tehran has set Shahed drones as well as blueprints and technical assistance for Russia to increase its own drone manufacturing. Yeah, I remember the apostles went over a video like years back where there was a drone that like fell into Iran, and then I'd think their technology would basically been reverse engineered, largely as a baseline from there, because these men have been sanctioned to blood clot, so there's no, they ain't getting hold of no military drones otherwise. But then for them to be giving it to Russia, it's a spirit that happened, because then that what, has basically let them bolster Russia. So as military cooperation has gone hand in hand with economic ties, shut out by the West. Russia's redirected much of its energy exports to China, while Beijing, which doesn't support the US-led sanctions against Moscow, has in turn stepped up exports of consumer goods that Russia no longer receives from the West. Yeah, so it's outside of just military aid, general aid as well, and then it was known China was stockpiling resources, food especially, different kinds of grains and whatnot, for like 3-4 years, for a good while. They were buying up like lots and stopped selling as much internationally as well. And now you have them, trying to lean more into the BRICS to supply food and different things. Because what does it say? As longer received from the West, yeah. So as their economies draw closer, China and Russia have increasingly used their own currencies for their trade, shunning the US dollar. Using dollars makes them more vulnerable to sanctions, while both nations also harbor ambitions to boost their currency's influence in world trade. Yeah, I think the yuan is doing better at that. But yeah, it's with these nations, they're basically interlinking and building that outside influence. And then it's what's it all for? It's for that WW3, man, that World War III, that Armageddon, Armageddon, the man of the troops. That's basically being, stirred and roiled up. Because why? It's all tying into prophecy. The thing is World War III is a prophecy, but then it's also the MOTB, the mark of the beast. That's when the time of Jacob's trouble. These prophecies are now at the door. That's why you're seeing these things build up. And we're in the accelerant. You have an accelerant, which is basically it speeds up the chemical reaction. So as far as with the chemical reaction of these prophecies, the accelerant is obviously Nero, Trump, that guy getting thrown in the mix. It's sped everything up. It's intensified. It's increased the reaction. So when it goes to the economy, military conflicts, World War III, because the Middle East situation as well, that's accelerant. Trump's dashed accelerant on that as well. And then what? These things is all tied into what? Prophecy. And that's what we're seeing, come to fullness. So I read this, Ezekiel 38:2. It says, Son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and prophesy against him, and say, Thus saith the Most High Power, because behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and I will turn thee back, and put hooks into thy jaws, and I'll bring thee forth, and all thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with buckler and shields, all of them handling swords. Yeah. So it's basically, with Russia you had, was it Gorbachev, I believe, where he was, in his time, as the Soviet Union was in decline, and, it's under him it fizzled out. He was basically going to the West and trying to, suck with them. But then that was something that fell, that fell through completely. That whole, linking in arms did not come to a fullness. The most you could really say is like Germany dealt with them as far as with the energy pipelines, Nord Streams and whatnot. where they'll basically like, okay, we're gonna link you into the European economic system. But then that was for prophecy anyway, because setting those things up basically built them links between Europe and Russia, which that's gonna come to fullness when you have everyone basically turning on America, shooting missiles on them. But as far as for now, you got that World War III where you have the same Axis allies, as the same rhetoric they use for World War II. Now, being utilized again. Because there's Persia, Ethiopia, and Libya with them, all of them were shoulder helmet. Goma and all his bands, and the House of Torgamov, the North Quarters, and all these bands, and many people with thee. And yeah, Persia's the key one we'll go to, because as far as Iran, that's that main spot. That's the focal point. And then it's the least of the flock shall draw them out. The state of Israel, that's the key point. And you've had that Palestine, Gaza situation accelerate that and bring the focus to it. And what's the fullness of it is that's where it's all gonna heat up. That's where everyone's gonna be drawn in and have their focus. It says be thou prepared, and prepare thou for thyself, thou and all thy company that assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them. So yeah, be a guard unto them. And that's why you have Russia really has that focal, military force. But then, China, Mo was washing out Esau economically. And then you have the other nations where they also have a role to play within these things. And really the fullness of it is everyone's gonna flip. Everyone's got a bone to pick with the American system and Esau. And then Russia's thinking whatever they're thinking, but the reality of it is they're a tool. They're being utilized. Because Joel 3:9, it says, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war, wake up the mighty men, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up. Be your plowshares into swords, and your pruning hooks into spears, and let the weak say, I am strong. And yeah, that's basically what you have. All these different nations, they're seeing the writings on the wall. What happened with, the EU when Trump said, okay, we're going to chill on the NATO funding. They were like, okay, everyone's accelerating the military spending and consumer spending, welfare, all various other angles of what people will be like, oh no, they've got problems with their general life. They're thinking like, yo, I need some help. Government, give me some help, give me some aid. But they're giving aid onto Ukraine and then, spending on the military budget to get bomb them, soldier them, gun them. That's what these men are all about. It says, assemble yourselves and come, all ye heathen, and gather yourselves together round about. Thither cause thy mighty ones to come down, O Lord Jehovah. I don't think I read verse 10. It says, beat your plowshares into swords, and your pruning hooks into spears, let the weak say, I am strong. And yeah, that's a big part. It's all these nations that once seemed weak. A lot of them got the bomb, man. They got nuked them. Iran's got nuked them. That's the big issue of what, Trump, America's been contentious with them about. The fact they've nuked them, missile them, and they could sling missile and blow up, Amalek. That's the main issue, man. That's the main focus. That's what they're fucking hell. They're all hurt about. But then what it says, let the heathen be wakened and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat, or Yahweh Shaphat, the Most High's judgment. For therein will I judge all the heathen round about. And yeah, it's something that whilst, you have key players, and whilst America is going to be destroyed, they're the focal point of destruction. All these nations are being drawn in. All the heathen are going to get judged. Not just some, not just one. All to blood clot. we'll finish on this. Second Esdras 9. 9 and 5. It says, "For like as all that is made in the world hath a beginning and an end, and the end is manifest, even so the times also of the highest have plain beginnings in wonders and powerful works, and endings in effects and signs." Yeah, that's the reality. Now we're in the time of those effects and signs, man. Everything's being manifest to where it's like, damn, people in the world are like, no, there's got to be something to this. "And everyone that shall be saved and shall be able to escape by his works and by faith, whereby ye have believed, shall be preserved from the said perils, and shall see my salvation in my land and within my borders, for I have sanctified them for me from the beginning." So yeah, it's basically gonna be a thing of, you're gonna have to be covered, man, from them perils. You're gonna have to be saved. Because why? It's gonna be raw. It's gonna be real. The dead is gonna be as dung, man. Like now you go walk in a park, you see a piece of shit. Someone's dog, just dookied out there and they left it. That's how body's gonna be when these conflicts kick off, man, in full swing. People are getting traumatized by the footage coming out of Gaza. It's gonna get worse. I'll leave it there. Shalom. Shalom.